Hi everyone, it's Deana and Kira here from Raising Adults, and we have the video show notes for you from our travel episode. This was an episode packed with ideas for not only how to travel and get that as part of your priorities and make it happen, but what are some actual tools you could use for everything from toddlers to teens? So we talked about it all.
Yes. So the first thing that we talked about, though, is please don't travel until you're ready. I think oftentimes people feel really pressured by family to come and visit, or they're like, I'm feeling the loss of my freedom. What would really help is a European adventure with my 15-month-old. And that might be true, but I think it's really important that you remember that travel with children is not a vacation. It's a trip. And a friend of mine said once, it's like parenting times 10, but without all your stuff. So don't make that leap until you feel truly ready to tackle that endeavor. You're going to probably have a wonderful time, but you're also going to have some stuff that makes it hard. And so you need to be in a good place to be able to handle that. So one of my caveats personally was we did not make the international flight to visit my husband's family until my kids were out of diapers and no longer napping. Those were the parameters that made me feel like, okay, I'm ready to deal with the other stuff because I don't have to also deal with that. So figuring out, what point do I think I'm going to be ready, and then giving yourself permission to wait until that point.
And with that being said, though, we definitely encourage that once you're at that point of readiness, that you do travel. Because the only way you get better at this and learn kind of what works for your particular children and your family, and you learn the little routines and tricks that are best for you, is by doing it. So similar to using a muscle and over as you work out, you've got to kind of flex the travel muscle, so to speak. So we encourage you to go ahead and travel and then keep doing it. You will get better at it, and your kids will get older and easier in new and exciting ways.
That's right. So one of the things we discussed that's really helpful, especially with small kids, is to have a little routine when you travel. So for us, when we get to the airport and we check in, then we always go to the kids' play area and they get to run around, and then we go to their favorite restaurant at the airport and we get to eat dinner together, and then we go to the bathroom and go to the gate. And so they have these little touch points that help them still feel like there's some consistency and security, even though they're doing this brand new thing, and they sort of learn that routine. So as you're flexing that muscle, they get really good at like, oh, this is what we do when we travel.
And it's so great, and I said this on the podcast too, but it bears repeating, is that this is a way to bring consistency to something that's inconsistent, because travel is inconsistent from your normal routine, and it's not going to match the day-to-day of your life. But now there's like a routine within that, and so it brings some consistency to a time that can just feel kind of chaotic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you do have younger kids, we talked about a few tricks to just help the actual travel time be a little bit more manageable. So just 3 that I'll mention here. One is you could consider bringing out some little treats and gifts for your children. So some families will in advance maybe buy some little toys or games and wrap them up, and then parse them out at regular intervals. So maybe if you have a long flight, maybe it's once an hour, they have a little something to open and it's something new to do or something fun to look at. You can do the same thing with food. We, of course, are big advocates of having parameters around a lot of the structures of your life, and that includes meaning you don't eat ice cream at all times or all these fun treats. So travel can be a time to let some of that go, and your kids get the fun fruit snacks or whatever it is, and that can also be one of the things they open even. Maybe it's interspersed between a couple of games or books or sticker activity books, and there's also a snack. And that can also stave off a lot of attitude and tantrums, because a lot of that can come from actual physiological things. When you're tired, when you're angry, when you're hungry. And if you can keep hunger at bay, you actually will save a lot of drama on long flights. So that can be really helpful to just give them something new. And then the other thing we talked about was we often have rules around how we spend our downtime at home and how much of that we have, in particular around screens. So many families have a rule where maybe children only get 30 minutes of screen time a day, and it's very structured, or maybe it matches the... Does that stop us? What happened last time? Oh, it's still going.
Oh, no.
So just ignore that. I was making sure we were actually still filming because I randomly saw something come in. So here's what I want to say about this, is if you are in a family with, like most of us are, you saw Kira raise her hand, where your children maybe have rules around how much TV time they can have or time on their iPad or Kindle, the travel is a great time to make a break from that and say, you know what, we're going to be on this long plane ride. It's okay with mommy if you watch this whole movie where maybe at home you would only get to watch part of it. Or maybe it's one show after another even. If they have one of those screens in the seat back in front of them, let them learn how to navigate it and use it. It really becomes about surviving that. And we talk about survival mode on the podcast, and travel is kind of one giant survival mode. So don't feel afraid of throwing some of your normal parameters out the window when you're traveling.
Yeah, I mean, we do have really strict parameters around screen time at our house, and actually our kids don't use devices at all. And then we get on a plane, and here's 9 hours of Kindle. Have fun. And I have no guilt about that because we are much more strict about it at home. And so when we get on a plane, it is survival mode. How are we going to survive this flight? 9 hours of screen time. That's
how we're
the
doing
solution.
it.
Yeah. That might not work for your family, but just coming at it that way, thinking about it as this is a type of survival mode. So what do I need to do? What do I need to allow in order for us to just have the best experience we can?
Mm-hmm. It's okay for the getting to the vacation to feel like a vacation to the kids.
Absolutely.
And it helps the parents stay sane. So hooray for that.
I talked a little bit about international travel because my family does that every year so we can visit my husband's family. A couple tips and tricks for international travel. If you have more than one child, 2 would be the ideal number for this idea, but you can make it work with others. You would take, and you're on an international flight that goes overnight, you would put one child across the 2 seats that are theirs to lie down, and then the other child in front of them on the floor in front, and it helps them sleep more easily. And so you'd put the better sleeper at the bottom and the less good sleeper at the top. But we found this to be really, really effective. Also, thinking about jet lag, please don't underestimate how hard that can be, and having a plan. If the kids are up at 2 o'clock in the morning once you get to your destination, what are you going to do? What is the plan for helping them if they're really just awake and ready to go, or if they're cranky and sad and feeling yucky? Because let's be honest, jet lag feels funny. So how are we going to handle jet lag? Make sure you have a plan for that. And then making sure that when you come back, that you have a couple days of buffering, that the kids have a chance to catch up and recover without having to go straight back to school or straight back to gymnastics class. You're not going straight back to work. Don't throw your family back in it like that. Give everyone a chance to recover because it is a huge recovery. And then finally, looking at immigration options, because immigration really can be a beast with small kids, especially if you've come off of a really, really long flight and you really just want to get home and you've had your trip and now you're like, there's nothing exciting that lies ahead except your bed. And so, immigration can take a long time. So looking at options like global entry, there's an app that you can get where you register all your passport information and it helps you skip the line. Anything you can do to just make that go a little bit faster and a little bit more smoothly, you will not regret the time or probably the money that it takes to make that happen.
For sure. International travel is its own beast. And then I had mentioned just a couple things for older kids because different issues crop up when you're traveling with older ones than do with the littles. And so one is around money, and older kids who start to understand money and start to get kind of a sense of greed almost will look at a vacation as an opportunity to get a lot of stuff. And so they can really come kind of with this attitude of, can I have that? Can I have this? Every store you go into, every destination you stop at. And so I just talked about how important it is and helpful it can be to just set the expectations in advance. Then you're not having a battle in the middle of some strange souvenir shop in a foreign country. You can know by telling them the souvenir budget in advance, they know how much money they have, and then they can kind of piecemeal that out to see whether that means, am I getting one big thing or am I going to get maybe one small thing at each place we go. It also has a nice side benefit of little money management action lessons. So I'm all for those. But again, it just removes confusion and any kind of a battle. So that can be really helpful. And if you have rules or parameters for your older teens and children about when they need to be back in the hotel room, or hey, we're always going to do dinner as a family, I just encourage really making that fun, talking about it in advance. Maybe each child gets to pick where you go for a particular meal. So you stay that number of nights. Make sure if you have 2 children, you're at least gone for a weekend, and then they can each pick one night of dinner or maybe a special lunch. And it's also okay to set the tone in advance and set the expectation in advance for activities as well, that they can maybe have some free time to explore the resort or head to the beach, but that may be some particular guided tours or activities you're going to do as a family.
Yeah. So, if you're interested in more of what we had to say, you can always check out the episode of Raising Adults. We're available on all major podcast platforms. And for more information on us, you can visit us at futurefocusedparenting.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook or Instagram. We've moved all of our Raising Adults podcast stuff over to our bigger brand, so the handle is at Future Focused Parenting. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you found these show notes helpful, and we will see you next week.
Bye.